And good afternoon, everybody. This is Vinny Milady with Milady Law, the strongest name in law. I am the partner, owner, founder, Mac Daddy, Chief Operating Officer, whatever you want to call me, of Milady Law. The date today is September 30th, 2021. Probably today is Thursday. This is a really quick video. Well, first, before we get started, because I always forget, subscribe, sign up to the newsletter so you don't miss stuff, okay? So, on the YouTube channel, click that red box to subscribe. Please subscribe. Let's get 100. At least let's get 100 people. I feel like I'm saying this all the time because I want to brand it and have cool looking stuff. And subscribe to the newsletter in case I ever get banned, which is probably more likely than not. Most likely than not, for the way things seem to be going. All right, let's get down with it. This video today is just to discuss temporary restraining orders and injunctive relief. So you hear this a lot lately, right? Because what winds up happening is all these cases that involve these rules with these lawsuits against the city, constitutional issues, the nurses, the doctors, the board of ed, the union workers, the police department, etc. A big thing you hear a lot of times, you hear injunctive relief, you hear a TRO, temporary restraining order. Someone seeks for a permanent injunction, temporary injunction, whatever the case is. All right, so we need to understand what's happening here really quickly, because unfortunately what happens is it goes into the media. Let's say a TRO gets denied, right? So a temporary restraining order gets denied, and then, oh, that's it, it's all over, the judge refuses to hear it, and it's out. Or a TRO gets approved, at least for the time being. Temporary restraining order gets approved, so then the TRO is approved, yes, we're gonna win, yeah, you know? So let's just clarify what these things are, right? Okay. So lately, all you're hearing is TROs, temporary restraining order, and injunctive relief, right? So an injunction is a directive from the court. You file a motion, meaning a paper. You file a motion for injunctive relief. A motion, you file a paper for injunctive relief, for the court to provide relief, for the court to relieve you from what's bothering you. So you file a paper to get a court to give you relief. A motion for injunctive relief. A temporary restraining order, same thing. What are you restraining? A temporary means part-time for a limited time. Restraining, you're stopping a party from doing something. Order, the court is directing something. A temporary restraining order. So for a time being, this party is restrained according to the judge, this order, okay? So the temporary restraining order and injunctive relief. So now, go down the line. Like, what's an injunction, right? So injunction is simply, it's a very fancy pants word for you're asking the judge to do something. Your Honor, I need injunctive relief for this. Okay, done. Injunctive relief. Don't do that. The executive order is frozen. The executive order has to stop. You're restrained from doing the executive order. This TRO has been granted. This temporary restraining order. Stop what you're doing. That's an injunction, okay? So when do you seek an injunction? You seek an injunction at the start of a case. So here's how it works. So you have so let's look at it this way. This is the start of a case, right? So you file your pleading, you file your complaint, your notice, your summons, you pay the whatever, $200 or $400, whatever it is, I can't even remember off the top of my head. So you have your complaint filed, you have your notice that you provide to the other side, your summons, which is you're summoning somebody to come to the court to answer to this complaint, okay? So at that point, that's initial filing, initial pleading. At that point, you could file for an injunction. You could file it with the pleading, or you could file a day after, whatever the case is. An injunction is you're simply asking the court to do something. Again, injunctive relief. I want the court to do this, provide this kind of relief, right? So when is it sought? It's sought when something is about to occur or something has occurred that causes you some kind of detrimental harm, or the word is irreparable harm, which we'll go into. But that's essentially when you do it. Something's really nasty, came down the pipeline, and that's what hurt you. That's what hurt you. And what's its purpose? Its purpose is to provide relief. The injunction's purpose is to provide relief. The directive is to provide you with relief of whatever is ailing you, to provide some kind of remedy for you, at least at that point, to stop it. So that's that's what injunctive relief is designed to. The purpose of it is to relieve you from the problem in which that you're addressing in the letter, okay? So we had, what is an injunction, when is it sought, and what is its purpose, right? So now I just want to go through So you seek injunction relief when you need something to be done because you're afraid of its irreparable harm. For instance, with the nurses, they wanted injunctive relief from that executive order because they were going to get terminated, whatever the case is. So contrary to what the city writes in their responses, which is just very frustrating, which I would say for another rant, but in a very general sense, when you're looking for injunctive relief, what you got to show the court in order for the court to agree to issue an injunction to protect you from, to cure you from that ailment, you need to show the court that you have a likelihood of success on the merits, meaning a likelihood of success, meaning the likelihood of winning your case on the merits, on the facts and the law of the case. So that's part one. You have to show a likelihood of success on the merits. Part two, you have to show that you will suffer irreparable injury if the injunction is not granted. Irreparable injury if the injunction is not granted. In other words, you're unless we get rid of that injunction, you can never be cured. You'll suffer an irreparable injury unless you can get rid of that injunction. Keep in mind that money damages defeat an injunction, defeat an irreparable injury. An irreparable injury is defeated by money damages. In other words, if the nurses are getting terminated because the hospital could severance the nurse out, let's just say possibly for $50,000 or $60,000, they're not entitled to injunctive relief because the hospital, they don't have irreparable injury. Their injury is very easily repaired by money for 2 years, let's say, or a year, so their damages are very easily repaired. So that's one instance, right? So that's something. And then the third part is what's a fancy legal term. It's known as the balancing of the equities in its favor. A balancing of the equities in its favor. Equities means fairness. A balancing act between, which party kind of like you want to get that equilibrium of fairness. The way I like to say to clients is you're all equally miserable. You want to be able to spread that misery equally, and the balance of the balance of misery is going to be against you if we don't pass that injunction. So the balancing of equities in its favor. So those are the three parts. To get an injunction, you need to have the likelihood of success on the merits, irreparable injury if the injunction is not granted, and the balance of equities need to be in the favor of the person who's filing for it. Now, the standard for satisfying this is to demonstrate it by clear and convincing evidence. I've always believed that to be 70%. So, more likely than not is like 51%. Clear and convincing is probably like 75%. And, beyond a reasonable doubt is a 99% evidence standard. And also, there's two standards too. There's the first standard, which is the prima facie showing. Prima facie means on its face. So that means that the person there's two parts. When you're moving for injunctive relief, you need to have a prima facie case, meaning that paper, on the face of that paper, you meet all the formal requirements. You meet the three elements, all the formal requirements. That's how you bring that forward. You need those three to bring that paper forward, that injunctive relief. Whether or not it gets granted now shows that you have to, again, show by clear and convincing evidence. So you have to show a very high standard. Not the highest, but a very high standard you have to show. So just to get in the door, you have to have a nice complaint. You have to have a nice injunction drafted just to get in the door. To actually get a grant, you got to show clear and convincing evidence. And I think that's all there was to it, because I just really want to just kind of walk through this, because you see it a lot, because that's all you see nowadays is injunctive relief, and even in the most recent, interim TRO, you're seeing this word thrown around a lot, injunctive relief, and nobody really understands what it is. Obviously, you're not supposed to. That's what you hire fancy attorneys for. You hire studs like me to explain to you what it means. But for the most part, I think, I was hoping this would clear it up a little bit. Just because you won an injunction doesn't mean you win your case. Just because you lost an injunction doesn't mean you've lost your case. There's a whole lot of case to have. It's just whether at that point in time, you're able to convince a court that your damages are irreparable. If, you're able to convince a court that your merits at that point in time. But remember, you still got to get through discovery. Discovery is a whole process, like a whole, 1 year process. Where you got to introduce evidence, right? You still got to get through discovery. So, just because you lose on your injunction doesn't mean you lose on the merits. And obviously, let's say tomorrow, someone FOIA request the governor's email and something comes out where the governor's like, well, fuck the nurses, you know? So I mean, like, that's probably really good, you know? So, you know, I wouldn't worry too much about that, but I just really kind of wanted to clarify, because I think what happens is a lot of people see this and they make or break everything and they scream and yell and they go crazy about it. Obviously, a lot of it is the media's fault too. The media should probably do a little bit better job, but whatever. I have no expectations from the media. They're useless anyway. So, well, there you have it, folks. You have an example. You have a background of what is injunctive relief, when it's sought, what's the purpose, and how it's done, and you know, look, keep fighting. We'll keep making these videos. We'll keep educating you. And if you have any questions, comments, concerns, you know where we are. Leave your comments in the sections below. Subscribe to the page. Sign up to my newsletter. Keep in contact. Keep me posted on your life. Have a beautiful day. Yours in law, love, and lives. Out.